Hello.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christina Raya, the head of education at Seed&Spark.
And I'm Bree Castellini, Seed&Spark's Film Community Manager.
Thanks for joining us. We're going to be talking about building an email list today. It's not just the hands-on aspect of building your email list, but how to strategically use it to engage your audience and take them with you from project to project and turn them into amplifiers for your career and pretty much everything that you potentially work on.
Because having a direct line to your audience is going to be the biggest indicator of the longevity of your creative career. So Christina is going to start by showing you exactly how she breaks down her intense, beautiful spreadsheet, very color coded. I can't wait for you guys to see it. And then once she's shown you how she organizes it and takes into account, her evolving projects, I'm going to show you how to use mail merge, which is a thing that I talk about a lot on Twitter and that I think a lot of you will find a lot of value in. So without further ado, Christina, would you like to take it away?
Yes, let's do it. Okay.
And also pay attention to the fact that we will be taking questions. I don't know why I said pay attention to the fact, but if you don't see it in the comments just yet, we are accepting questions throughout this entire webinar. So if you have any questions about what we're talking about specifically, about building an audience and email lists in general, or just have something that you think Christina and I ought to know, put it in the Facebook comments and we will respond to those as they come in.
That's right. Okay, Bree, can you see my spreadsheet?
I can, and it's beautiful.
Thank you. Okay, so before anyone gets intimidated, yours does not have to look like this. I know Bree's is not color-coded, and mine wasn't to begin with. The colors came when I started to realize I was collecting so many emails from so many different sources, and I wanted to put them into buckets of kind of common denominators. And so I'll just run through the kind of key at the top here. Yours will be different and you may add to them. I'm adding to them as I work on new projects and have new sources of emails. They're kind of the basic screening of my work. So if I screen my film anywhere, I try to collect emails because that's a great place to find people who care about independent film. They care about paying for independent film. That's pretty important. And so you want their email for future collaborations, for future crowdfunding. And so I keep track of that. Obviously, from a crowdfunding campaign, you will find if you crowdfund, your email list will probably double. That's been my experience. I collect new emails because people give to my campaign. So some people come specifically through a project. I track that. Friends and family, all the people. That was pretty much my email list before I really had one. And those were the first ones put into my spreadsheet before it looked like this. And I run a monthly screening series called IndieWorks. So any filmmakers that we screen there, business cards at networking events, they go in their own category. Teaching and paneling, people give me their business cards there. And then some people do directly sign up for my newsletter. So I track who people are.
So Christina, why is it important for you to separate out? Isn't it just enough to add somebody to the list? Why the colors? Why the categories?
So for me, my email list is thousands of people and it's a lot of text. And so if I want to very quickly sort and just say, okay, like where am I getting the most emails? What does this section look like? How many are coming from teaching and paneling? Or I'm trying to find just like one person, I can't remember their name, but I know I met them at that screening. I can just go to that section and quickly scroll. So yours, again, like it may not make sense if you only have 100 emails to start with. You can probably find stuff pretty easily without knowing people's names. But once you start to add to it and you're screening all over, which hopefully is the trajectory for your career, then you're going to want to really start bucketing people. Okay, so we're going to do a little exercise and pretend that I'm collecting Bree's email. But I'd actually love it if it's our real history. So
yes, please do. Let's take you down the love story of Bree and Christina.
A love story, the way it has evolved. So we met through teaching, I believe, in 2016. I was teaching at the WGA East Writers Guild.
Digital Caucus.
What?
Their digital caucus for like digital creators specifically.
So it was one of my first times teaching for Seed&Spark. I joined the company in March of that year, and I do remember you for a bunch of reasons because we talked after, but you're a great example of someone who handed me a business card at that.
I don't remember doing that, but I'm glad I did.
I remember. And I'll tell you why in a second. So normally I would say, okay, so I met her teaching. So I'm going to add a row below. In theory, there are names all over this thing. And I will put in your name. And then we're going to use your work email. Right.
And anyone, if you have follow-up questions about this workshop, feel free to email me. There's a reason that we're putting my actual email in here because, yeah, let me know. I'd love to help in any way that I can.
This is not the email you gave me, though. You didn't work for the company then?
I did not. I had never heard of Seed&Spark before this workshop. I credit specifically you with letting me know not just about crowdfunding in general, but about Seed&Spark specifically.
Well, there you go.
You, love story.
It is a love story. Okay, so 2016, the year is important because you don't know how long it's been maybe since you spoke to someone and you want to kind of be tracking that. Like if I were reaching out, if I never spoke to Brie again and I was reaching out now because I remembered a detail about her and I think my current campaign might appeal to her, I would want to acknowledge that it's been like insane amount of time, you know, nearly 5 years, right? So that's something you want to keep track of and just kind of know, okay, how much have I spoken to this person? How long has it been? Is this even really like warranted? And if I'm going to try and make it so, I need to use some interesting language here. Source, so this is where I would say WGA East, right? So that I can reference exactly how we met. Maybe the key thing is that when you reach out for crowdfunding or any kind of like support, you want to make sure that you are showing that you're not just emailing everyone you've ever met in your life, even if you are doing that. Literally, you are putting some thought into who they are and why they should care about what you're sending. And so knowing and referencing where you met is important. And then
we just got a question from our live audience asking if we will be sending out templates of this spreadsheet afterwards.
We could, sure.
Yeah, we'd definitely be able to. So keep an eye out for that. Actually, just send me an email. You have my email on screen now, so send me an email and we will get you a template of this beautiful spreadsheet.
Yep. Okay, so notes are really important because this is the personalization. It's your ability to have a why, any kind of why you can come up with when you reach out for something. So things I remember about Brie, you don't remember giving me your business card, so you can't correct me, but I recall you giving me 2 cards. One was your contact, one was like your business card. And
one was Brains?
Was Brains, yes.
Man, my branding is so iconic. Brains was the web series I was working on at the time.
Yeah, and so I made note because I was like, okay, Brains, web series, she's a writer. So, okay, obviously a writer because it was at Writers Guild. Web series, that's key. You mentioned it multiple times, not just that, but just like a general interest in web series. Brains, you told me about it. And from that alone, I assumed you were a genre fan or at least like interested in kind of high concept, maybe post-apocalyptic type of stuff. And then through my own kind of looking into you later, maybe could have deduced that you're into like quirky, high concept stuff that's maybe not like hardcore horror, but more comedy, horror comedy, right? So that's
accurate.
Kind of, yes. And part of that is me knowing Brie, but also I think I would have gotten that from doing a little bit of digging into the materials that you gave me because that card had the YouTube information for Brains, your web series. And so this is really key because if I were reaching out for something that's like a drama, like a really personal drama, straightforward, no comedy, then I would have to find a reason to be reaching out to Brie that isn't the things I know she really loves because that's not applicable. So that's why you want to be as specific as possible. So it's like whatever you could remember about what you talked about. What I usually do is if I get handed a business card, I will literally, after we have a conversation, write on it and say, we talked about cats, like, which is not uncommon for me. I probably would bring up my cats at some point. But whatever it is that you can make note of is really important here. And then some of this, I think that's really kind of your base. Like that's what you want to have at the very least. And then the rest of the stuff is how far you are in your career. If you have a newsletter, I like to track whether or not someone is on my newsletter. And so the answer would usually be yes, no, or unsubscribed. If someone unsubscribed, which you may find to be the case because they don't want monthly updates, but that doesn't mean that they're not interested in a specific project. I've seen that. I've seen people unsubscribe, but then still give to a crowdfunding campaign later. And so that's just like something I like to track. Because I also know then, let's say, I believe you are subscribed to my newsletter.
I am. It's a great newsletter. Everyone should subscribe.
Thank you. It doesn't, we don't have to plug our
I'm just saying it's an excellent newsletter and like a good case study. Something that I'm not saying we're plugging Christina's stuff specifically, but if you are starting your audience building journey, the best place to start is find creators that you really respect and follow what they're doing and see how the things that they're doing might apply to your work, and not necessarily stealing format, but like a newsletter is a newsletter. So if there's a particular part of the Congested Cat or IndieWorks newsletter that you find like, oh, I think that would be really applicable to what I'm working on, take that as inspiration. Use each other, not use each other, but you know what I mean? Like, take inspiration from wherever you can get it. Follow people you respect in your field, and you'll get a lot more concrete inspiration than if you just like watch generalized webinars. So,
right. I think that's important. And I have a monthly newsletter because IndieWorks is a monthly screening, so we always have at least one new update per month. It may not make sense for every filmmaker. If you're working on one project, there aren't many updates, but you could have like a quarterly newsletter. You could have a sporadic newsletter,
that's unfortunately what mine is, but I would like to make it quarterly this year.
That's a good goal. Okay, so that's something you want to track. And then these are specific to me. So I track, because I've crowdfunded 4 times, I will track who has given to what campaigns. And this is helpful because you want to know who's supporting you on a regular basis, who has supported you every time you've asked for something versus maybe in a particular project, so that you can get a sense of like, what are they engaging with and why? Are they engaging with everything because they're a fan of yours, they want to support you? Are they only engaging with specific genres? Are they only engaging with specific styles of filmmaking? That's kind of stuff you want to know. So I didn't know Bree when I crowdfunded for the very first time in 2011. I didn't know Bree when I crowdfunded in 2012. I didn't know Bree when I crowdfunded in 2014. I did know Bree when I crowdfunded in 2017, and she did give to that campaign. And so here I would put updates. If I'm like, let's say it was someone that I knew all of these years and they gave to the first one but never gave again, or they gave to the first and the third one, that would tell me Summit, for instance, is a horror film, and there's no comedy in it. Most of my work does have some element of comedy. Usually I make horror comedies. If I were to make assumptions that they gave to all 3 of these and not Summit, then I would say, okay, they're not a horror fan, right? So those are the kinds of things that you would maybe say here, not whatever. I'm not gonna say that because you're not a horror fan, but then I want to bring back the color coding, because Bree did evolve to becoming an IndieWorks filmmaker, right?
Yes, this film specifically screened at IndieWorks, I think also in 2017, maybe 2018.
I think so.
It was a couple of years ago, but that was definitely the next step.
Right. And so our relationship evolved. And so I moved her into a new bucket here. I moved her into IndieWorks filmmakers and attendees. And the source didn't change, so I still have that context of how we met. And then I would probably write in here, like, went from workshop attendee to IndieWorks filmmaker, right? So because that recontextualizes our current relationship, and that is really important because you want to make sure that you are as up to date as possible. And then I would say that even more relevant eventually evolved into this category, right? So now we are friends, Or at least I think we are, Brie. It is a love story.
This is the moment, Christina, that I'm going to tell you we're not friends. I'm saying it live on air. It's a love story, but there's no friendship whatsoever. Actually, I'm curious about this. So we are friends, just to clarify. But if I simply was somebody that you like lost touch with for a while and then became a coworker of yours, is there a reason that you don't break out coworkers from this template?
I guess I don't have enough coworkers. I mean, Seed&Spark's a small team, and I don't have enough coworkers for it to feel like I need a specific color. I would just put in the notes that they're my coworker in the friends, and you know, I guess like if I wanted to, and actually I do have an acquaintance. I do have an acquaintance category in mine that I didn't include here. That maybe is like it evolved from business card to we've seen each other at enough events, but we're not friends.
Sure.
And if there were any coworkers I didn't like, maybe I would put them in there and add some sort of, you know, where this is a coworker, but I haven't had to do that. So thankfully I like everyone that I work with. But that's, again, it's like the colors they have to be warranted. You have to have enough of a reason, I think, to have to create a separate category. And then this is like helpful, I think, because it changes how I would maybe reach out. Like if you were an IndieWorks filmmaker, I would probably put together a formal email. When you're my friend or family, I probably would just like text you or call you or Slack you or however we normally communicate. In theory, these are people I talk to on a regular basis, or at least somewhat regular, so that we have a form of communication that exists already.
Yeah, this is a good point. So something that we say a lot in workshops, and I say a lot on Twitter because I'm constantly talking, is that the reason that email lists are important is because we have found through data from thousands of campaigns that social media shares only convert about 1% into actual crowdfunding contributions. So only 1% of people who see a social media post about your crowdfunding campaign will actually give it to you, whereas direct email outreach converts 20 to 30%. But the important key here is not necessarily the email outreach portion, but the direct outreach portion. So as Christina said, if she and I don't naturally email back and forth, it would be weird to just all of a sudden get a personal email from Christina. It's like, Christina, we're literally talking on Slack right now. What are you doing? Right. So it's important to contextualize the best method of communicating with people. That's actually a category in my email list, like where I should reach out to them. Like, should it be Facebook Messenger? Should it be Instagram DMs? Because I have friends that have like preferences and that I know will just never check Facebook, even though we are technically Facebook friends. So that's certainly something to consider about all of this, is that it's not strictly email, it's about the directness.
That's a great tip. I should add that note to mine. Okay, so this is the master, right? And it doesn't really change. Yes, people might shift around to different categories. I'm obviously always adding updates when relevant. I usually will do some sort of like sweep after a crowdfunding campaign and right before I'm going to launch a new one, which for me tends to be like a 2-year gap. But I don't do like real kind of cleanups until I really need to. I usually will just use the updates section. And then I would just like to cover this very quickly. How you would apply this to a crowdfunding campaign is trying to figure out what your points of interest are for all of these people. And again, not just crowdfunding, it could be for distribution, it could be for any project. Like you have
anything you want to announce to people.
Exactly. And you're asking them to take some sort of action from. So
really quickly, before we jump into that, Christina, we just had a clarification question. WGAE is the WGA, Writers Guild of America East. So Christina and I met in New York City at a Writers Guild of America East event. So that's what WGAE is.
Yeah, and so this is shorthand. You could write it out because you might, like sometimes I put in shorthand and then I'm like, what does this stand for? Where did I meet this person?
Yeah, and you're just like desperately Googling an acronym like, no, it's not this construction thing. No, it's not a political term.
Or festivals. The other thing is sometimes festivals will use the same letters. And so it's like, wait, which AAFF am I talking about?
Sure.
So yeah, you want to, I guess, be as specific as possible, but that's what I used here. So, okay, I will usually have multiple tabs down here per project. So when I was about to go into About a Donkey, I created a project, another sheet that was specific to the project. And I will usually look for points of interest in my upcoming project that changes slightly You know, I have written down here genre, themes or story, setting, representation, special interest, and then me. The things that might change, like the setting might not be all that interesting or specific, so that might not be a point of interest. The special interest changes based on the project, and I'll get into that in a second. The others tend to stay the same, and I might add something else if there seems to be like a standout. But generally, I'm trying to think of what are the things that would draw you to my film. And it could be that you love horror movies and I'm making a horror movie. It could be that I'm exploring specific themes, or maybe like a specific struggle like in life that really resonates with certain people. Again, the setting, like if you're making a film in a specific city and you know that maybe locals feel underrepresented, they probably would be very excited to see a film set there. That isn't always the case. Like I live in New York City, we both live in New York City, and people are so used to us shooting here. I wouldn't say that it necessarily would excite anyone.
Yeah, nobody cares that you're shooting in New York because everyone's shooting in New York. But, you know, if you're shooting in even a place like Austin, people get excited about that. They love, you know, local filmmakers. And
For
the
sure.
more specific your community is, the more relevant probably the setting aspect of reaching out to people will be important.
Yeah, or it could be like setting in terms of time, you know, and people
True.
a specific time period. But looking for that can be an in. Representation, I think, is a huge thing. People want to see themselves or see certain reflections of identities on screen, and that is usually integral to my work as well. So I'm thinking about who are the people that care about the specific representation in this project. Special interest is like, what's the unique hook of your project? So in About a Donkey, there's actually a donkey in my movie. And so that was like anyone who's really into donkeys. And that is very much a category of people I found through social media. It could be like, I just made a short film called Game Brunch, and it could be people that are really into brunch or really into like game nights or like group board games.
Sure.
So you might have multiple special interests. And then there's the me category, people who just will support me because they're fans of my work in general, or of me as a friend or as a family, though generally I would advise you to still find a reason for why they're the audience for this film.
Totally.
But if you know that you're reaching out to them really because it's like, hey, we're friends.
Really quickly, Christina, we've got a question from Sarah who asked, don't the direct newsletter subscribers and other color-coded categories overlap? How is that different?
Oh, so the direct newsletter people are people who subscribe. I got their email from them subscribing to my newsletter. I had no idea they existed. And then all of a sudden I see there's a new email in MailChimp and I look into that and add it.
It's also because I have this as well in my email list, or I've recently added it, I should say. And it's also important because newsletters are a great way to kind of keep people aware of stuff, but because they are inherently indirect the same way that a social media share is, they aren't always the most effective way. Just because someone is subscribed to your newsletter does not necessarily mean that they like are clicking on every link. So it's valuable to just know when not to double up. Like if somebody is already going to get your newsletter announcement, maybe you wait a week before you reach out to them directly, or vice versa.
That's right. Yeah. And you know, the average open rate for arts on MailChimp says 25%. So like you're definitely, you don't want to rely on that. It's for updates, it's for reminders if you're crowdfunding actively, but direct is really the key. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I want to jump to Breeze, but I just want to make clear that the people are not always going to fall in the same buckets. So if I were crowdfunding for a Game Brunch, which is a kind of what I've been calling a fantastical farce, it's kind of a like heightened comedy set in a little bit of a sci-fi world, but it's comedy, it's not horror. That is Brie. Like Brie would fall in genre here, right? She's nodding very enthusiastically. I know this. But if I were making like a straight up horror film that was going to scare you and be really gory and not make you laugh at all, she would not be in the genre category, I don't believe. I would have to think of like, where else could she fall? Like my feature that I'm hoping to make called Silent Night is sort of in that realm. And I would say probably in that case, like Bree's really into ride or die couples, which are the main characters of that film. So I would probably put her in this special interest that I've labeled ride or die couples. So she might be in genre for one, but she might be in this special interest for another. She might be in representation for another. So this is just like using your master and the information you know about people to try to categorize them so that you're being as effective and strategic as possible with your outreach.
Yeah, because you're probably going to have like slightly different email templates based on people's various interests. You wouldn't want to send everyone the exact same email, even with just light personalization, because things about your project are going to speak to them differently. So this is a good way of just bucketing, like, these are the 6 email templates that I need to make, and each one will speak to, the category that it is in more specifically. That Christina might not even mention ride or die couples in the genre email, because that's not what those people are going to get really excited about.
That's right.
And this will be relevant for mail merge when we jump over to that.
Okay, so I'm done with my part of it. You take it away, Bree.
Cool. I will do that. All right, are you seeing my screen?
Yep.
Cool. So here, I'm going to move this up. So we have looked at the master. The master is the thing that you just are constantly updating. New project is where each time you have a new project, you're going to update the buckets of interest that people have. So you can start to align yourself with, like, all right, this is how many templates that I need to make. You're still going to have a lot of the same information, same links, maybe same language for describing the project. But in terms of like the personalized pitch portion, this is where you're going to learn the differences. So now I'm going to show you how to use the information that you're gathering from both of them to, instead of sending one email at a time, sending lots of emails at a time, but where it still looks like it's a direct one-on-one email. So that's mail merge. So I'm not going to show you how to install mail merge, because I don't think that's necessary. But what I will say is the mail merge plugin that I use is a specific plugin to Google Sheets, and it's called Yet Another Mail Merge. So if you go to add-ons, you can just go to Get Add-ons and search for Yet Another Mail Merge. But this is what a mail merge will look like. It's a little bit similar. We've still got name and email columns, but there are a couple of unique columns that I want to call out in terms of the use case for mail merge, because mail merge, again, is a way of using this to templatize your outreach so that you can click one button and send all of the emails that are relevant in your spreadsheet all at once, but they still appear one-on-one. And we're going to go through the whole process together. So I've kept name and email, but I've added a category called first name, because this is what I am going to dynamically insert into my email template. I'll show you how to build that in a second, but I'm not going to say, hello, Brie Castellini, I'm crowdfunding today, because that would be crazy. I mean, if you refer to me by my full name, that's fine. And that's actually important, because down here, you'll see my second Brie Castellini here. I might include in first name Grandma Brie. Like if I'm reaching out to my grandmother, I'm not going to call her Christine. Hi, Christine. Similarly would be psychotic, but I would reach out to her and say, hi, Grandma Chris. So whatever I want to be inserted into the like hello section of the email, that's what I put in the first name column. Then past project, I'm taking from the information over on my master list. So, I specifically supported About a Donkey, because that was the first campaign of Christina's that I was aware of her to be aware of. And this will go into a sentence where I have included it to personalize specifically the stuff that they had supported before. Small talk is something that I put at the top of every single mail merge email, because when you're templatizing an email, even to the best of your abilities, even if you're a really talented writer, it's still going to kind of seem like a templatized email unless you take the time to add some kind of like hello section. And so you can actually programmatically insert that by just having a column labeled small talk and then include that. So, I've included for this small talk, yo dog, I hear you like email list webinars, whatever it is, whatever perhaps the update is, over here, Christina mentioned that this person went from a workshop attendee to a IndieWorks filmmaker. So I probably wouldn't mention the workshop attendee thing because, we've moved on from there, but I might add in my small talk, it was really great seeing you last month at IndieWorks.
I prefer yes, yo dog.
Well, I'm trying to give your beautiful spreadsheet some love to show how it applies, but I'll add yo dog at the end, I'm sure. Okay, the audience really loved and anxious, which is the title of my film. The more personalized you can make the small talk section, the more it's going to sound like an actual email from an actual human being. So, now that's in there. Here is, my small talk here. Now, I also have a subject line column. The subject line column is particularly important because of the new project things that Christina has broken down, because more than likely the subject of the email is going to be different based on what thing people are excited about. So, if I was excited about ride or die couples, my subject line for the people who are interested in that, might have a specific, ride or die couple related subject line. So I know we're running out of time. So I'm just going to show you how to run one of these puppies. So I am going to actually use filter. Something that's cool about mail merge is you can put them all in one list and then filter by the people that you want to send this particular email to. So I am only going to send an email to the people with the subject line, I'm crowdfunding, join the fun, to Grandma Bree here. So I've filtered it. So now there's only one available thing for mail merge to pull from. And I'm going to start mail merge. And this webinar is going to be recorded, everyone, so you'll be able to access it afterwards if this is going a little slow. So it's starting mail merge. Congratulations, me.
And we see a few questions. We're gonna answer them after Breeze.
Cool. So I'm choosing an email template. Oh, I forgot to show you the email template. So the way they actually make the email template is like this. So this is our email template that I've just made a draft in my inbox. So you just start a new draft and then don't put anyone in the to area. So as you can see, there's these little squiggly lines. So that aligns. So subject with squiggly lines aligns with the subject title for that column. As I put in this handy mail merge tips to cover up my inbox, because you don't need to see that. You can see that the column names are cap sensitive. So if subject wasn't capitalized, then it shouldn't be capitalized here, but it is. I've also made in red all the places that the template is going to insert stuff. So what I'm going to show you right now is what it looks like live. So I've selected that email template. It's the one for with subject in the header, and I'm going to send one email. You can also send yourself a test email, and just keep in mind that whatever row is first in your mail merge list, even if you have like 20, that's the one that it's going to pull from for the subject line. So let's see when that comes through. Looks like a new crowdfunding project has come through since I last checked this inbox. Wow, my internet does not want to work with us today.
And while we're waiting, we had a question about the new project page and kind of what you do with them from there. And really that's sort of the in-between in taking them to what Bree is doing. So you would kind of categorize them there and then bring them into here to actually execute on.
Yeah, that's just sort of your planning phase, so that by the time you enter them into your mail merge, you know exactly what bucket they're going to fall in, what subject line you're going to need. Okay. So, oh, look, we've got an email from Bree Castellini. It just looks like a regular email from Bree Castellini. We can see that I'm crowdfunding, join the fun, which was in the column there is dynamically updated in the template. And so if I click on it, you can see I have made red everything that the spreadsheet inserted, so you can see how it just like naturally flows into the email. So, hey, Grandma Bree. So that's where the hello would come from. Here's the small talk. So the small talk is just a sentence. So that entire thing got inserted via the spreadsheet. And then I'm reaching out. This is the kind of template part. Since you previously supported Summit, remember, I put in what they had previously supported. If I'd had multiple things there, it would have been, since you previously supported Summit and my latest Congested Cat short, I thought you'd really enjoy this new project. Basically, the idea is that you're letting the spreadsheet personalize the email template so that you don't have to copy, paste, and figure out phrasing. You figure out one type of phrasing and then insert your little squiggly lines and the spreadsheet title.
Very cool.
And that's how you use mail merge. And so you can use that to send in the free version up to at least 50 emails at a time all at once. And really quickly, to show you the spreadsheet, there is a tracker here. So I can actually tell that Grandma Bree opened the email. The email is opened. And if Grandma Bree clicks on a link, now she comes up under clicked. So that means that this person clicked on a link in the email. And that's really important. So you know who is getting at the very least to your crowdfunding page. And if they don't actually end up contributing, you know that you can reach out again and say, hey, what's not working for you? You don't have to necessarily say, like, I saw you clicked on the email, but you do know that, like, they were interested enough by the email to click through, but maybe not quite interested enough to give you money. So it's worth maybe asking them what's up.
And also a hot tip, since you can only do 50 per day in the free version, I recommend when you're in the new project stage, when you're kind of bucketing people, to put them in priority order. So these are the people that are most likely to contribute because of their history of contributing or their engagement level or just generally your relationship. So they should be the earlier people you reach out to.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely helpful for me because I'm a person who likes to do everything at once and then just wait and be panicked. So this is a great way of forcing myself not to do that. Also, it's important because if you're getting your like ride or die people in the first couple of days and because you've like spaced it out, by the time you get to the people that you're less sure about, they're clicking to a crowdfunding page for the first time that's already got momentum behind it, that's already seeing people excited about it. So they're not seeing it at its base state. They're seeing it at, already 20, 30, 40% funded. And that's going to make a much stronger argument. So there's definitely a reason to like hold back on emailing everyone on the first day and maybe waiting a little bit.
Yep. Okay, so I think we have a few questions we haven't answered. Let's see. What should you do if they say donated to a crowdfunding campaign under a username and you don't know their name?
So on Seed&Spark, you do have to have some kind of first name. But in that case, at least on a mail merge side, I would put there in the first name column. So then it would update to, hey there, which is sometimes what I do when I'm reaching out to like a company, but I don't have a person's email. I just have like their general information email. So that's one way to get around that. But if you actually want to make like start a relationship with this person to invite them into your community of audience members, it might be worth just making a personal reach out like, hi, thank you so much for contributing. I'd love to keep you updated on what I'm working on next. And I actually just realized I don't have your name, just your username. So lovely to meet you. I'm Bree, and thank you for joining me on this journey, something like that.
Yep. Okay, what else do we have? I think we answered. Oh, if you use MailChimp or have constant contact, is the duplicate spreadsheet necessary? I believe we kind of touched on that. Yeah, with the 25% open rate of things like MailChimp and other newsletters.
Yeah, what I like about mail merge is that it just looks like a normal email. When even though, MailChimp is beautiful and you can make it really like personalized and colorful, it looks like a marketing message. So even though it's beautiful, people inherently just see it as a marketing message, and that's not as personal and it doesn't feel as direct. So even though they know that you Jason, who asked this question, are writing the email, it's still not directly to them. They still have the ability to fall back on mob psychology and say, oh, I'm sure somebody else who got this newsletter will take care of it. Mail merge and an email list are great for making a personal appeal and making it harder for them to just say, oh, I guess I just didn't get your newsletter. Like, no, I emailed you personally. I Facebook messaged you and I made it really personal to you. And people are a lot more persuadable in those circumstances.
That's right. And also I think these don't filter to the promotions tab the way that newsletter.
That's true, because it's just coming from your email address. Like that email that we sent as an example came from Bree@seedandspark.com.
Okay, do we have any other questions?
Yeah, we'll stay on for a little bit. Thanks so much for stopping by, everyone.
Yes, please follow up with us if you have other questions. You have our emails now, at least our company emails, and we're on social media. So if we run out of time here, we can give you an answer on there.
Cool. There's a little bit of a delay, so we'll just sort of sit and chat. Christina, can you tell us any like I don't know, like particular success stories since you've built this email list, like something that this email list allowed you to do that you wouldn't have been able to do otherwise?
I would say that a success story in and of itself is that direct email outreach, we say tends to have a 25 to 30% conversion rate. And mine tends to be more around 45%.
Oh, wow.
And that's because of this extreme personalization.
Yeah, my last campaign converted at exactly 20%, but I was also crowdfunding when a pandemic hit. So I have a suspicion that that affected it to the extent that like there were several people I know personally that were on my initial outreach list who by the time I was about to send them an email or by the time they had received my email, they had recently lost their jobs. So had I known that going into it, I would have changed my strategy a little bit. But like by contrast, my social media numbers, which I, selfishly thought were going to be like way better because I'm always online. I have a ton of friends from Twitter, many of whom might be in the chat right now, specifically from Twitter, but only 0.7% of my audience converted from social media to actual contributions. So, even my extremely online persona still proved the fact that social media it's too indirect, it's too diluted. It feels better as a filmmaker because like it's not as vulnerable to just like post on Twitter like, hey, whoever just like has some money and wants to give it to me, go ahead and give it to me here. But because I don't have to be as vulnerable, it's not as convincing. And no risk, no reward, and the same principle applies here. So social media is easier, but it ultimately just isn't going to convert the way that you need it to.
Yeah. Do we have any others?
It looks like Katrina's asking for cues, but I feel like you and I did a really good job. So maybe there's just no questions necessary.
Let's just talk about a different subject.
Okay. Isn't there a thing related to IndieWorks happening next week?
There is. Yeah.
We just had talked about it.
My other hat. Yeah, well, it's sponsored by Seed&Spark, and IndieWorks has been sponsored by Seed&Spark even before I joined the team. Since our second year of IndieWorks, it's in its 7th year. I have worked for Seed&Spark for just over 4 years. So yeah, we're having our Best of Fest, virtual Best of Fest. It's free to attend. We usually have monthly screenings, and April is usually the kind of 10 winners from the past year of screenings. And it was supposed to be at the Made in New York Media Center, but because of current world circumstances, we're doing it online, and it's free. It'll be on our website, congested.cat.com. You can find out how to tune in and all of that.
And thank support you. Tons of filmmakers.
Yes, they're New York-based filmmakers, but they're on social media and you can engage with them.
But New York-based filmmakers are no less valid than any other kind of filmmakers. Yeah,
of course.
I mean, a little bit. Like, come on, we're New Yorkers. We're going to be fine. We do have another question. Any success using this cold emailing to like causes and organizations? Oh, using this for cold emailing.
I haven't personally, but I feel like mail merge definitely would come in handy there.
Yeah, so I have not used it personally for, actually, no, I have. I've used it not necessarily for organizations and partnerships, but for press releases. Mail merge is super useful for sending out press releases because press emails are always going to be a little bit more templatized, and that's just like an expected thing. But it's also really valuable because I can track who is opening my emails. I know that if I'm going to send out a new press release for a new project or something, I can check my old mail merge, check what the final stats were, and if somebody has consistently just not even opened my emails, I know not to bother, not to make them a part of my initial outreach, or I know that I need to find a better contact for that particular publication if I still think that we are in good alignment. So definitely would recommend using mail merge for that sort of a thing, and kind of keeping in touch with your press contacts and people who have written about you and interviewed you in the past.
Any other questions? I don't see any.
Yeah, I don't see any either. But remember, you can always follow up with us directly at either of the emails that you have seen on screen at some point, and we'll send you a cleaned up template version of this and answer any follow-up questions you might have. Apparently, I've received Oh yeah, I've already got an email from someone building an email list Seed&Spark. So yeah, definitely let us know if you want a copy and have any other questions.
Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. We're going to be doing more lunch and learns like this. We don't have specific dates just yet, but we're looking for topics. So if there's a topic that you want to learn more about, something maybe we just touch on in our other workshops, our crowdfunding and distribution workshops, what you want us to elaborate, or maybe bring in a guest to talk about their experience, please let us know.
Definitely. And yeah, thanks so much for having us. Hope your lunch was delicious.
All right, bye.